President Biden to take executive action on the border. Does the White House at this point believe that it has many more executive actions that it can take, or does it believe that it's come close to exhausting those options?
Here's what I'll say, MJ. We believe in order to deal with what's happening at the border, you need a legislative solution. You do. It doesn't matter. We don't believe, the bottom line is we don't believe that an executive action would amount to what this legislation, this bipartisan legislation would have been able to do if it was enacted into law, if it was passed, obviously, and enacted into law. And what it would have done is been the toughest, but also the fairest, deal with providing resources, obviously, that's needed for law enforcement, and make some key changes as it relates to the immigration system. That's what we believe. I don't have anything to share about any additional executive action. As I've said before, don't have a decision here to share with all of you, but we fundamentally believe that if that bipartisan agreement that came out from the Senate was moved, or was even voted out of the Senate, and then obviously moved to the House and enacted into law, it would have been the first step, that beginning step, to deal with a real issue that majority of Americans care about. Anything else, I just don't have anything to share.
I have a question on a different topic. Former President Trump suggested recently that his mugshot and his legal troubles are being embraced by Black people because they understand what it's like to be targeted and discriminated against. I just wonder, you are a White House that prides itself on, your relationship with the Black community, its, outreach to the Black community. The president himself talks frequently about how he believes he won in 2020 thanks to Black voters. What was his response to that comment from the former president?
Yeah, and I do have a couple of things to say about that. I want to be really careful because it was said, he said it as a candidate, obviously, don't want to comment on 2024, but speaking separately, right? Speaking apart from that, and just being very candid here, it's repugnant and it's divisive. To traffic in racist stereotypes, that's what we have seen, and that affect all Americans, right? You're tearing up all Americans by doing this. It is, again, divisive and repugnant, and it's coming from, obviously, a former president of the United States. And in any context, it is profane to compare the long, painful history of abuse and discrimination suffered by Black Americans, and to something that is totally different than self-serving purposes. That's what we saw from the former president. A former president. Let's not forget, this is where this is coming from. And that is not, as you stated in your question to me, MJ, this is not what Joe Biden wants to see. He has been always very clear that hate has no safe harbor here. He's all about making sure we move forward with shared values, making sure that everyone in this country has the dignity and the respect that they deserve, every community. And so that is what we need to hear right now, not a divisive, repugnant statement from a former president that really tears apart a painful history that a community has gone through, the Black community, and it is repugnant. It is absolutely repugnant.
Just to clarify, is that description reflective of how the president himself?
I speak for the President of the United States as the White House press secretary, absolutely.
He's aware of the comments, though?
He's aware of the comments. I've spoken to him directly about these comments. He's aware. Get Karen.
Thanks. Back on the Ukraine, you've said several times during this briefing that the House should put on the floor the bipartisan bill that the Senate has already passed. House Speaker